I recently got to participate in an exclusive hands-on 4-hour playthrough of Star Wars Outlaws, and today I'm going to share my thoughts. Before we get started, I want to give a special thanks to Ubisoft for giving me the opportunity to try out the game early. The session started off with the main character Kay crashing on the planet Toshara and meeting the mechanic Waka. Some bandits showed up and I was immediately introduced to the adrenaline rush shots. This functions like the dead eye in Red Dead Redemption. When you start to get shot at, your adrenaline meter fills up, allowing you to use the shot. After dealing with the bandits, I made my way to the main city of Miragana. On the way, I got to see some of the open world and it felt a bit empty, but more on that a little later. Getting to the city, I saw that it was very busy compared to the outside. Tons of NPCs everywhere and each having their own conversations in different languages, and even some stormtroopers harassing them as well. It's a side of the Star Wars universe that isn't seen super often, so it was a nice attention to detail. I made my way to a cantina to talk to the Pike Syndicate underboss, Gorak, but one cannot simply speak with Gorak. If I had the credits, I could speak to a broker and buy a VIP pass, but since I didn't, I had to find an alternate route. I like that there are multiple different paths you can take to complete your objective, which I'll go into a bit more on that a little later. Heading outside, I found a storage room with a locked vent. This started the lockpicking minigame. Unlike other games where you have to find the right spot and twist, in Outlaws it's a rhythm game. The tool you use will beep and the two colored lights on the right will flash. All you need to do is match the pattern to unlock the lock. Or at least that's what you're supposed to do if you can get the timing down. I can't tell you how many times I tried to get it and failed miserably throughout the entire session. Eventually I was able to unlock it and open the vent. This led me to being able to access the elevator and head up to meet Gorak. After the cutscene, I got thrown out and met Danka, which is one of the main quest-giving NPCs. Now I was headed off to infiltrate the Pike base and steal some information. This is where the stealth gameplay kicked in. The stealth felt very familiar since Ubisoft has been doing it with Assassin's Creed for a long time. You can use your companion Nyx to attack and distract guards to either sneak past or do a stealth takedown, which is really nice. One thing I noticed is that the guards throughout the demo have ridiculous vision and they will spot you extremely quickly, so it's very important to use Nyx's sensing ability to see enemies through walls and around corners. I eventually made it into the Pike stronghold and was able to mark the guards' positions with my binoculars. This is a nice ability so you can survey a room before trying to cross it. However, even with this advanced knowledge of where everyone was, I still managed to fail horribly at stealth and it immediately turned into a massive shootout. Alarms were going off everywhere and reinforcements kept coming. Eventually I was able to defeat them all, but what I liked about this is that you can have major consequences to even the smallest of mistakes. Being as stealthy as possible has a massive advantage as you can get overwhelmed very quickly. The shooting gameplay was pretty good in my opinion. The enemies will bring out shields or get behind cover or even try to flank you and blow you up with grenades. This made me have to move around constantly to not get shot. Some enemies would also drop their weapons, allowing you to pick them up for more powerful shots than what your blaster could do. I made my way past the locked door in this area and got to the computer with the information I needed to steal. This started the slicing minigame. It's very similar to the hacking game in Fallout, but with symbols instead of words. You pick the symbols for the row and it'll tell you if it's correct or not with colors. Red means the symbol is not correct and it can't be used again. Yellow means the symbol is correct but in the wrong place. Finally, blue means that the symbol is correct and it's in the right place. Once I was done slicing, I grabbed the information I needed and left the base. After completing the quest, I had to go meet a merchant for an ion upgrade for my blaster, which brings up two things. One is that you can actually upgrade your blaster with different modes, like an ion mode for shields, a charged shot for higher damage, or even rapid fire. The other thing is, I got lost a lot during my session. I can't show the map, but it was not always easy to figure out where I was or where I was going, and the fact that there was no minimap didn't help either. I really hope that at least a minimap gets added to the game before release if possible because it happened a lot. After getting my blaster part, I had to get another part from either the Crimson Dawn or the Pikes. I chose the Crimson Dawn since I was in good standing with them. This introduces the reputation system. Reputation can range from terrible to excellent, but I only saw poor and good status during my session. Poor is the middle of the road and the syndicates don't trust you. They won't let you explore their area and will shoot you if caught inside. Good means you can explore their areas and they know your name, but there are still some areas that are restricted. Reputation can fluctuate depending on your choices on the outcome of missions and quests. I really like this system as you have to be careful with your choices, and if you make any group's reputation get too low, they will actively hunt you down. At the same time, if you have a reputation that's higher, you get different rewards like discounts at merchants and access to loot you couldn't get before. Once I got what I was looking for in the base, I was then able to head to the open world again. One good thing that will be in the final game is fast travel. You'll unlock several different points and they'll be very useful, but I was unable to use fast travel during my time with the game, and it made it a little tiresome to use my speeder bike to get to the same places over and over again. Now, earlier I mentioned that the open world felt a little empty, and that's still kind of the case. You'll find different quests just by driving around, and you can find treasure locations that have hidden loot. The problem is that in the time I spent with the game, there wasn't really a lot that were close together. I know this is not necessarily a bad thing, but again, to me it made the world feel even emptier than it actually was. Now this could be more of a lore thing since you seem to be more on the outer rim of the galaxy, so there's not a lot out there, but it almost feels like too much time was spent on the cities and not enough on everything else. Now take that with a grain of salt though, since I only had 4 hours with the game, most of which was spent in missions inside of the cities or in some kind of base. I also believe that I was playing an earlier build of the game, so these things could definitely change when the game is fully released. I didn't spend too much more time on Toshara as I had to go to space to continue the story. I was a little disappointed with the liftoff and landing because once you sit in the pilot's chair and take off, you have no control until you reach space or land on the planet and get out of the chair. This felt very similar to what Bethesda did in Starfield. In space, the controls felt pretty good and weren't anything crazy, which made traversal fairly simple. There was space debris everywhere from ships exploding, and it made me have to dodge and fly around obstacles to get to my objective. This is where space combat opened up. You have your normal blasters, but also missiles you can use to lock onto other ships just like in the movies. I liked the feel of the combat as the enemy ships would move around me in multiple directions, and turning my ship was decently fast, so targeting them again was pretty quick. Once I defeated the ships, I grabbed some cargo from space and was escorted to the Imperial fuel station nearby to steal something for the Crimson Dawn. I landed in a hangar and had to sneak my way through the giant open space with stormtroopers everywhere. Things went south for me quickly and I died surrounded by blaster fire. Again, stealth is super important. Trying again, I was able to make it through the large area without being detected using the environment to cover me. After this, I continued to stealth my way through the base while taking down stormtroopers in my way and avoiding cameras. Everything was going well until the elevator. I reached the hangar area again and had to make my way across and chose to go down an elevator in front of me. The first time through, my stealth failed me horribly and everything escalated until I died. The second and several times after that, I took a stealthier approach and made it to the ground with ease, but 2 stormtroopers kept getting in my way. Eventually, I got past them only to have another group see me. Turns out, I was going about this all the wrong way. Before using the elevator, there was a path that opened up using nicks that avoided all the enemies in the area and let me climb to where I needed to go. This again shows that there's lots of different paths to take and some will be more difficult than others. I was able to gain access to the room with the data and then had to escape with what looked like a floating head in a jar. There was less stealth to this section and more just shooting your way through everything. Eventually I got back to my ship and left the station with a wanted status similar to GTA. There are at least 2 ways to clear wanted status. One is by paying an Imperial officer in a city, and the other is to clear it with a space beacon. Getting close to the beacon, I had some TIE fighters show up and they were easily dispatched. I didn't get to test what happens if your wanted status doesn't clear or what it looks like on planets, but I would imagine that there would be progressively more enemies that showed up getting more and more tough. Unfortunately, I'll have to wait for the full release to test that. This concluded the first part of the session and led to the second planet I got to visit called Kijimi. The city you land in is much different than Miragana on Toshara. Instead of being closed in, everything was out in the open air and snow was covering the ground. The mission this time was to find a safecracker, which immediately reminded me of The Last Jedi when Finn and Rose went to find a codebreaker in Canto Bight, which is also where the main character of Outlaws is from. While looking for information, you'll get introduced to another syndicate called the Ashiga clan. They had an artifact stolen from them by the Crimson Dawn and you have to steal it back. In the earlier part of the session I was in good standing with the Crimson Dawn, but now it was set back to poor standing, so I couldn't just enter their base. Sneaking in led to the usual stealth that of course went wrong for me again. I'm starting to think that I'm just bad at stealth. After the shootout, I was able to get the artifact and headed to the Ashiga Queen. This ended the main quests that I had available to me, and it gave me some time to explore the city a bit. Just like Miragana, NPCs are everywhere, all doing their own thing, and some even have conversations that would lead to intel to other missions that you could do. I decided, however, to head back to the cantina and speak with the contracts merchant at the entrance. Contracts are basically short quests to get credits and increase or decrease your reputation with different syndicates. It had me go to a place I'd already been to, so there were no guards to stop me since I took them down previously. This was disappointing as it was just returning to the same places over and over again to do different things. The repetitiveness of this was not lost on me, and again goes to show that some things were worked on and fleshed out more than other things. This is supposed to be the first open world Star Wars game, but if I'm just going back to the same 5 places on each planet, it doesn't really feel that way. My session ended with a game of sabacc that I wasn't able to finish. It's pretty simple and was fun to play. You can even cheat and use nicks to look at other players' cards to see what they have. I got to play the first 2 rounds and part of round 3, and it made me wish there was a sabacc mobile game that I could download and play on my phone. Overall, I thought the gameplay was really fun and enjoyable. The reputation system was an interesting take on the choice system of a lot of games, and I thought it was pretty good. The gunplay and stealth worked really well even when I didn't, and mistakes were punishing but not too bad since checkpoints occurred very frequently. The open world aspect felt empty, and the repetitiveness of going back to the same areas without a minimap or fast travel was a little frustrating. Now remember, I only had 4 hours on an earlier build of the game, so those things could be worked out by the full release. However, even with these small frustrations, I still had a lot of fun playing and think it's definitely worth checking out. Leave a comment below with what you think about the game and if it's something you're gonna play. I'll be having more videos releasing for Star Wars Outlaws, so make sure to like, subscribe, and click the bell for notifications. Thanks for watching, see you next time.